The American empire is an empire in the sense that the American government has actively determined who rules in other countries. It's taken as a natural point that the U.S. can overthrow another country's government if that other country's government is deemed to be inimical to U.S. interests in some way. And there have been perhaps 100 covert regime change operations by the U.S., largely the CIA, but not only. And those have extended from 1947 until today. The lesson is that they get us into terrible crises and they get the target countries into prolonged instability and crises. And because they are, by design, deniable by the U.S. government, there's almost no awareness or discussion of the underlying causes of such wars. And I'll give two examples. One is the Syrian war. In general, Americans don't pay too much attention to the rest of the world anyway, but they may have heard that there's a war in Syria, and they would say, well, yes, because there's a Syrian despot, and that led to a civil war. I doubt that 1 in 1,000 would know that President Obama signed an order in 2012 to overthrow the Syrian government, and already in 2011 began to arm an insurgency to overthrow the Syrian government. I know from my diplomatic roles that a peace agreement was reached in 2012 to end the civil strife in Syria, but that the United States blocked it. So the war now has gone on for 14 years openly, from 2011 to, or 13 years to 2024, with hundreds of thousands of dead. Nobody in America knows.
Displaced.
Yes, nobody knows. Nobody cares. Nobody reports on it. Nobody knows the CIA role. Once in a while, we hear Vladimir Putin entered Syria in 2015 without even the minimal notice. Well, yes, the United States was there 4 years before. Thank you. So this is a typical kind of action. Another example to bring us closer to our immediate crisis is Ukraine. It is said by the mainstream media that the war in Ukraine started on February 24th, 2022, when Vladimir Putin, in an unprovoked manner, invaded Ukraine. This is a fantasy of a description. The war started 10 years ago. It started 8 years before its ostensible start date, because it started in February 2014. But people have short memories. The U.S. overthrew a government February 22nd, 2014. The sitting president had the temerity to say that, this is sitting president of Ukraine, excuse me, had the temerity to say that Ukraine would be neutral rather than a NATO country. And that was a cause for the United States to overthrow Yanukovych, together with extreme nationalist militaries and paramilitaries in Ukraine. And this installed an anti-Russian, indeed Russophobic regime in Kiev, and the war began then with breakaway republics and bombing, and then a negotiated settlement called the Minsk Agreements, which was repudiated by the U.S. and the Ukrainians.